Welcome to Discussions of Music, Healing, and Consciousness with your hosts, Chris Noble and Bill Paratzman. On this podcast, Chris and I offer a spontaneous, ongoing conversation about how music is intertwined with healing and consciousness. Our first season helped lay the foundation and build some of the superstructure for what we want to do here in Season 2, where we'll be welcoming some intriguing guests, going deeper into ancient mysteries and wisdom, and cultivating your background knowledge and curiosity. We hope these discussions will inspire your own study and practice of the musical and healing arts, and that your contribution to advancing world consciousness will be satisfying for you and transformative to those around you. Let's get started.
Well, I'll tell you a little bit about my weekend festival at the very last, I guess the last weekend of August. We did we did our meditation workshop on the final morning of the weekend, and it was really early. It was the earliest one we've ever done, a 10 a.m. workshop. And, you know, musicians, I think.
Right, we're still asleep.
We're not the early birds.
How true.
And at the same time, you know, luckily my friend he is a bit of he is an early bird, so he's an exception to that rule, and I can do it. I can do what I need to do if I need to do it, especially for an event I'm excited about.
Were you there with Tennyson King or some other?
Yeah, so I was there with Tennyson King.
Okay.
We've been doing this all summer now, where we're incorporating a meditation music workshop, usually after a performance. So we'll do a concert, classic, you know, just rock and roll, folk rock, at a very regular music festival. This isn't yoga festival. These aren't like, you know, spiritual, more hippie festivals. This is standard rock music festival. And we offered the music meditation the following morning at 10 o'clock, and like, I don't know, 80 plus people showed up in that early morning. I mean, I was amazed at the turnout, first and foremost, and then the amount that people were able to drop in. And we've been improving the workshop each time. So this time we were offering some more, we talked about toning. I talked about toning, and I talked about how using sound. That was the day I was starting to come down with my feverish, pretty brutal sickness that took me for about a week. And that morning I told the audience, I was like, I'm going to do some things that I need right now because my head is splitting. And so I'm going to teach you guys some toning where we can, you know, put your teeth together and you can feel your head and your brain vibrate.
Yeah.
And you can find different pitches. And I'd practice things like that with them. And I'm like, find an area where it starts to alleviate any of the discomfort in your head. And so using toning to get rid of headaches was like the first thing so we went through some pretty cool techniques and taught some really cool stuff. We even started to incorporate Qigong, which I have started to do now every morning, 20 minutes of Qigong before I even started with a bit of yoga and more yogic kind of stretches and things like that. Qigong basically means the mastery of your life force energy. So it's truly the teachings and the practice of how to move your life force energy, your chi. In Star Wars, they like to call it the Force. You know, it's the same thing.
Same thing.
And so that was the thing that Tennyson got to bring in because he's Chinese, and he brought in that traditional Chinese component, which was perfect. So we taught just very simple ideas about how to like move the breath with your hands while you're moving, which is a Qigong thing and also a Tai Chi thing. So we taught a lot of cool stuff, and then I led them through the music meditation where we just played, more of a sound bath. I guided them through a very in-depth body scan, which I find helps a lot, gets people very embodied and also relaxed. And then we finished it off with some singing at the end, and it was afterwards when people started to come up to the stage. Some people were actually brought to tears. Some people were pumped, like energized and just pumped, and some were just clearly in a very introspective, almost like when you're on psychedelics like mushrooms and you go into that introspective place, kind of like they were in that mode, or they were very inspired to do things. I mean, everyone received it differently, but they all received it really well. And the big thing I got, Bill, was honestly, it's just like this stuff is here to stay. Of course, we're talking, I mean, these are ancient practices that we're reviving right now, but it's so clearly needed, wanted, appreciated, and recognized by the main public, the mainstream, beautiful everyday Joes and Janes out there. I just absolutely was floored with how much people are really starting to wake up and appreciate this stuff. And I say wake up with respect and love. I don't mean it like, hey, wake the hell up, people. It's like,
Yeah,
no, no,
yeah.
no.
This is not about that other word that's related
No.
to the word wake.
Exactly. I'm really not at all like I'm just really proud of people and really actually excited. And I was personally inspired by a lot of the people there because I, I still think it's a little niche, the stuff that we talk about on this podcast. And I'm starting to realize, Bill, I don't think it is, you know?
Yeah, I agree with you. The awareness is amazing to me. I had a crazy insight. You'd think, you know, Bill, this is stupid. But you know how we're always talking about frequencies and how important they are whenever I always get that conversation. I gave a lecture last Thursday, I guess it was last Thursday evening. And I was there to demonstrate what's the music on your heart and how that works, like the interactive nature. We've done this before. And I got the question about 432 hertz. And I heard myself saying, if 432 hertz is your thing, when you remember the music that you need and it plays in your brain, it's probably playing at 432 hertz, right? Because it just would. I mean, why not, right? And the insight was, hey, 528, 174, pick the flipping hertz you want, right? But if it happens inside your head, how much more perfect is that? You don't have to be concerned about whether you're on the hertz or not because it's inside you.
I mean, your brain doesn't know the difference. That's why visualization is so powerful.
Right.
It doesn't know the difference.
Yeah, it totally doesn't. So if you're listening right now and 432 is your thing or whatever, pick a frequency. Just know that when you hear that in your head, you're going to get the frequency you need, whatever it is.
I did also hear some interesting things about 432 that some audience members brought to my attention at that workshop. And one woman, she clearly is well versed and studied in the Bible, and she mentioned how 432 hertz apparently comes up some, not the 432 hertz is mentioned in the Bible, but that number 432 apparently seems to have a lot of significance in
sacred
in
geometry. I mean,
correct.
it is all tied together with that, which makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. I mean, 432, of course, is a sacred number, and it's divisible by 9, which is like the most magical and sacred number because it's only multiplied or divided by itself. It's the only number that can reduce to itself every single time. And 432, of course, is that perfect mathematical sacred geometry harmony. And then the other thing that I was hearing from people too, though, is that they told me anecdotally that they all felt the difference because I always do a demo. I play them the same thing at 440 and then I bring it down to 432 and I show them this is what the difference is. It's subtle, but you can hear it. And they all were like, oh man, the second you went back to 432, it's like my body just
right.
And recently, when I'm practicing other songs and playing to other music, of course I have to turn back. I always tune my keyboard back to 440. I'm at a point now where if I'm playing it and I've like turned off my keyboard, it will remember the previous settings. So if I've 40 and I come back, it's still at 440, and it's a day later and I forgot, I'll be playing it and I'll feel it and I'll be like,
yeah, there's something wrong here, right?
And I'll check. I'm like, I knew it. It's not at 432.
Yep.
So it's not just because I'm used to it. It's because it really does for me. It just feels so much better. It really does feel noticeably better.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I mean, that's just what I'm leading with now. I'm like, I'll talk about the science and Dr. Emoto and some other things like that, the Great Pyramid maybe and stuff like that. But ultimately, what really matters is I feel better, and it's been consistent for the last 5-6 years now.
This is like, a worldwide movement that's going to catch hold because there are orchestras already who tune to different reference pitches. It's always been that way. And 440 is convenient, but I think we're going to see some blowback and more people are going to be playing at 432 until it gets to the point where, the tuning instruments that the piano tuners have, those sets of tuning forks that you can get.
And I was told too by the audience, they're like, there's not a large number of musicians, especially, but also even, in the meditation realm that are doing meditations to 432 hertz music in
Nice.
general.
Yeah.
And there's not, you're reminding me as we're in the podcast, and I don't want to be rude here, but you gave me a thing. Like, I'm like, oh crap, I got to reach out to this woman who I met when I was collecting fresh spring water, which is the funniest thing because every time I get my fresh spring water, which I don't get enough, I want more of it. It's the most delicious, amazing, glacier fed, beautiful alpine water. But anyway, every time I'm at the place where you fill up, I always meet the coolest people. And last time I was there, I met this woman she's a sound healer. And according to her, and she's been, looking at this for a while, she's the only person in Vancouver who does sound healing and has sound bowls all tuned to 432 hertz. And I can say from my experience that I've yet to meet a sound healer in Vancouver, which is, British Columbia, West Coast Canada. Stereotypically is a lot more quote unquote spiritual or quote unquote into the yogi lifestyles and nutritional holistic kind of lifestyles. You would think there would be more people out here doing the 432 hertz thing. Nope, we're still not quite there yet.
So crystal bowls, all of that, those are not 432.
My personal experience having played with a lot of sound healers now is a lot of them most commonly are in between. They're kind of in between 440 and 432, but they're definitely not 432. A lot of them more often than not are 440 or they're off by like 5 cents from 440. So they're maybe 439 or something.
Yeah.
Like that.
I can't hear the difference unless the two tones are together. I really can't hear the physical difference, but I feel it. And this sensitivity that we're all developing is really, really cool because we haven't been tuned in, and I'm using those words on purpose, right? We haven't been tuned into this potential for a long time here. And with sound healing and the resurgence of just interest in music and in sound in general, it's really, I think it's really important that we recognize what's happening. Of course, being Westerners, we're all hung up on the notes, right? The tones, the frequencies themselves. And I have yet to see a scholarly paper on this because, the solfeggio tones have been dissed by scholarship for a while, but it still doesn't mean that it's not worth investigating. First of all, how were the tones made in ancient days? But more importantly, what are the overtone sequences? What are the harmonic sequences that come with these things? And how do they change between, say, 440 and 432? Because it's not just the tone, right? It's the movement of the thing, plus all these harmonics that are working on us, as well as the base frequency or whatever we're calling it, or the frequency an octave below, or, all those other things that come into play too. So as awareness grows around this, I think we're going to see more interest in the full spectrum.
Thanks for saying that, Bill, because that's such a good point. That's another thing I took away from that weekend was the frequencies are important, and equal to that, the music is so important. Like, what instruments are you even playing? Because when we do this, when I work with Tennyson King, he plays his jorung, which translates from Cantonese to English as medium-sized guitar, and it's like it's also known on Google, if you're doing a Google search, as a moon guitar. So if you guys are trying to look up what this looks like, you can type in moon guitar, Chinese moon guitar, and you'll likely get the same thing. Jorung is complex spelling that I'm not even going to try right now. It starts with a Z and H, I think. And anyway, so he's playing that, and that has a beautiful tone. He's running it through psychedelic effects as well, like lush, long trail reverbs and delays. So it's a beautiful sound that they built this guitar for meditation. I mean, it's literally used, It was used to mimic the sounds of the birds and the wind and all this kind of stuff. So when he plays that instrument, the second I hear the tonality, the timbre of that instrument, I am taken away. Yeah. Regardless of if I'm in 440 or 432, but if we're down in 432, which we are, it's just extra powerful, right?
Yeah, right.
So, and this is like goes into your work, Bill. It's like the music is still so important. And every time I'm doing these, I'm also trying to make sure that I recognize, yes, the frequencies and the science is important. And I'm bringing my musicality into it. And it's actually the music maybe more so than the 432 that takes people on this journey, because they all come back with like, oh my god, dude, I went to this like other galaxy, or
Right.
I went into my inner child and I was back at age 7 all of a sudden, or like people have these profound journeys, and I have to wonder, I know it's a combination of the two, but maybe 432 is just what it brings your nervous system into such a beautiful state of like peace and calm.
Yeah, it's
And
the
then
river you're
the
flowing in, you know?
exactly. And then the
You're
music maybe is
flowing.
what takes you on that journey. I don't know.
I've been trying to visualize the fabric of 5 dimensions for a while. The fabric of 3 dimensions is pretty easy. But if you think about what happens when space and time are part of the fabric, then even the ability to measure a particular frequency disappears because there's no per anything, there's no per second.
Well, there's no time.
There's no time, right? So you can't actually say that something's vibrating a certain number of times per slice of time because time doesn't exist. It's just an all-encompassing, like swimming in the ocean or something. And in that fabric, it doesn't really matter, you know, like if you've ever done any snorkeling, that's probably a good analogy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Swimming, you know, in deep water with all of that beauty around you, whatever. Like the individual colors are important, but moving through them is the point, right? And it's so cool that you can snorkel with somebody and afterwards you can say, "Did you see this? Do you see that?" And you will find out that you saw entirely different things, or even the same things, but in different ways, in reference to wherever your perspective was and all of that. And I think 5D consciousness is like that. There's no one point that matters, you know, but what matters is the flow through it, because it's a much more instead of being limited the way 3D is, 5D gives us this opportunity to travel in our individual ways effortlessly because we're not bound by space and time.
Yeah. And it's like the feeling maybe more matters than the
Yeah,
time
yeah,
and
yeah.
the,
Because that's our perception. The mind goes away, right? The 3D mind goes away. The perception has got to be in some other way. We have to
yeah.
perceive our emotion through that in some other way.
And maybe time exists. It just exists in an infinite plane, perhaps, where it's
Oh
like,
yeah, there's no limits.
there's just no end of time. And it doesn't have the same deterioration that we see where things, you know, are born and die and born and
Yeah.
die and death and rebirth. Maybe it's just a different kind of way of being in that fifth dimension, plus whatever other. What's the shape? So it's triangles, the third dimension, squares, the fourth dimension, and then is it what's the one with 5?
A tetrahedron. That's 4.
Yeah, base.
Dodecahedron. I don't know. The shape that I see when I visualize that is a thing from the quantum gravity people, E8,
Right. Yeah,
which
exactly.
is in motion. Like
Yeah.
it's a hologram of a hologram in motion.
Oh, Pentagon.
Pentagon,
Pentagon.
but that
Not
seems
the
so
intelligence agency.
two-dimensional.
Well, they're all two dimensional. I guess I'm thinking of sides. So a
Oh, the
triangle
number of
is
sides, right? So
three
there's
sides, 3 dimension, square or cube, fourth dimension, and then the I guess the pentagon, and then whatever the 3D version of that is.
Yeah.
But anyway, getting into another realm here. But yeah,
sacred geometry.
It's sacred geometry. I love that episode we did do when we got to hear what that sounds like on a
Right.
frequency level. That connected a lot of dots for me because
Yeah.
you know, geometry is music. Music is geometry. What is it? Music is frozen architect. No, architecture is frozen music. That's what I've heard that before.
Yeah. Who said that?
Sacred architecture, like beautiful architecture.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Not like, you know,
Not
cinder
modern day
block.
Western cheap crap that we build now.
So science is doing a great favor to all of us by protocolizing things. But this sound healing is so far beyond protocol, right? And I think you're talking about something that's really important, which is, hey, I can lead you to how to do this, but you're going to have to do it so that it works for you. That insight is profound, Chris, because there's like no one right way to breathe, right? thank you, Wim Hof, and all the Ujjayi breathers from Asia, everybody else who's ever done breath work, right? Thank you, because you're just unlocking the potential that's there. Same like sound healing, right? Sound healing can be like a pitchfork on your head, or it can be those noise canceling, bone conducting headphones, uh, or it can be sitting by a stream in the mountains. You know.
And combining those things is where you get the real
Oh
amazing.
yes,
I'm now starting to do more. I'm going to be starting monthly events in October onwards. One of them is going to be breathwork and beats. So I'll be doing the
yeah,
beats, the music, and my very good friend is going to lead the breathwork, and he's just so good at it. And he's my friend who I go out with every week to do breathwork,
right.
and we're just going to bring that to anyone who wants to participate. But the combination is the 432 hertz music that I'll be performing live, improvising it while he does the breathwork, and the beats, the rhythm that we'll put into it is super key because breathwork is very primal, it's very physical, it's very activating, and that when you can get the I'm always half dancing when I'm doing breathwork when it's to a track, and when it's to when someone's done a really good breathwork journey recording and they got some cool music going on and there's some good rhythm. I really get into like the shamanic kind of psychedelic breathwork rhythm because the music takes me there, and I feel like my spine starts to have that kundalini sort of serpent, undulation going on, and it's a very synergistic experience. So we wanted to bring that in these events. We've done them before, and it's just an example of, yet again, when you fuse it's like music goes with everything. It's like when you start to pair it and you start to see how it enhances different things. I'm curious, Bill, like when you did your lecture, do you leave anything for people to take away from that? Like when you talk about your music stuff, like what are those little, because it's an idea of how you can take music, incorporate it into your life to enhance. It's like you're combining it with other things, right?
It's exactly that, because the music that we do is the music that the audience chooses. So what they leave with is not so much with any new music, but they leave with a new way of using the music they already love. And it's so cool to watch the lights come on around that. And I mean, it's a function too of how deep you want to go, because some people don't go there and some people really go there. And in both cases, it's meaningful for them, right? So somebody who is pretty locked up emotionally can still have an amazing experience and understand things about the music that they brought and how that works on them in ways that open them up to a richer experience in life, just as well as the person who comes in and winds up, in a puddle on the floor after listening to, "You Light Up My Life" or whatever it was, right? It's just, it's it's the same thing, and that's marvelous for me because I don't know what's going on there, but the moment that they realize that music and who they are the same thing, everything can change for them, right?
Yeah, we are music in a lot of ways, right? I think that's why it's so universal. It's a universal language. Anywhere I've ever been in the world, there's always music,
Always music.
and it's my favorite way to connect with people right off the bat. I just was at a friend's house on Saturday, and he invited me over, a new group of guys I've never met before. And what do we do? First thing when I get there, I brought my guitar and, you know, just start jamming. I don't know anyone here.
Right.
Play some
That's how it
music.
works.
It's how it works. And they're like, oh, I think they made a comment. They're like, oh wow, we're just like jamming immediately. I'm like, isn't that the best way to get to know each
Yeah,
other?
that's the only way, right? So, hey, how are you at improvising in five? Because I know a lot of breathers count five.
Yeah, I mean, I can. Four is still, if for me, just being kind of like raised with pop music and
Yeah.
and just standard 4/4 songs. Like obviously 4/4 is more natural for me,
Yeah,
but
me
I can
too.
do five. Five's fun. Breathwork, yeah, it comes in a lot of different forms. You're right. Five is a common one, and four is also very common too.
Yeah. I have really developed incredible respect for breath work. And I often invite people to breathe at the beginning of a session. But I'm realizing more and more that the freedom for them to breathe as they are most comfortable doing it, like the music that's in your heart, it's most comfortable for you to approach your breath in the way that you need, rather than for me to be all guiding you. now we're going to breathe in for 4, right? And so just allowing people to have their own experience of the breath, especially in a crowd that's into that kind of thing, like they know already, is really, really valuable. And it's not like it's a big part of what I do. It takes a couple minutes at the beginning, but people always thank me for the opportunity to breathe. It's like, okay.
I was literally talking about this with a friend the other day, Bill. Like and it's not to like, it's just an observation, but we are so pinched off in the Western world here. We
Oh
are
my
so
gosh.
pinched off from
Yeah.
everything. We're pinched off from nature. We're pinched off from how to breathe properly. Like
Right.
we're not raised this way. A lot of other like cultures and traditions, like again, like I'm just looking at Asia and the tradition of qigong as an example. Like
That's right.
they
Yeah,
teach
that's
you how to
perfect,
breathe.
right?
That's
Everybody
the
learns that.
first.
It's
It's
what
the
you learn.
first thing they teach you. It's how
Yeah.
to breathe.
How to breathe. Hello.
Like and it's okay, like we're coming back into that, and that's why these things are so important right now, that we bring this back to our the world in general and the Western world especially. But it's just interesting to observe, like, wow, we like to think we're well ahead of the game here in the Western world, and yeah, exactly. That's my answer.
If we were ahead of the game, why is it that, people from the Western world are going to South America to sit with the curanderos, and people are going to China and Tibet to hang with the yogis and the Buddha, and
Why
we
is our
need it
life
all.
expectancy going back down
Oh,
again?
right. Yeah. Well,
Mental health is
that's
on the rise,
that's because we've done such a good job with psychology. We have psychology. Now look at our mental health. We can define anything. Your left
Yeah.
eye is twitching. Well, that's a disorder we discovered yesterday, and it's now in the
Here's some
DSM-12.
Yeah, exactly. Now go take these 18,000 pills and you'll be fine, like
Yes, which are more expensive.
yeah, exactly. I mean, there's just so much, right? And that's also the beauty of the contrast that we've had to live through in the Western world, is that yeah, we have a mountain to climb out of all the stuff that we've been pinched off of, but at least we
Yeah,
know that we have that situation, and we know of so many modalities that can help us get there.
totally.
And
Right.
there's answers to all of these problems. Like there's solutions to all of this. And that's the exciting thing is, yeah, it's a little like, it's a little messed up, certainly, or a lot messed up, and we're super pinched off. Absolutely. And at the same time, that's cool because now we have so much room to grow, and we have so much room to evolve and become just better versions of ourselves. And that's also a huge reason why we're all here, is to just learn and grow and expand. And we've been given a fun, again, I look at life as a game a lot of the time, right?
Right.
So
Right.
when the game has put an opponent that's quite challenging for you to beat, right? It's that boss in the video game or something.
Yeah.
And like we've got a pretty difficult, challenging boss to beat here in the Western world, but that's part of the game, and we wouldn't have a game if there wasn't an adversary of some kind. So
You've given me an idea for a topic that we'll need to discuss someday, which is how the music business itself is changing.
mm,
And not the business so much, but for independent musicians who are doing what they do. I mean, your story is transformative in many ways. It inspires me. And you're just still in the middle of it, right?
oh yeah.
But it's not about the traditional, find a producer, make a recording, get a demo album together, pedal it to, that's gone. But something else is taking its place, and it's a Wild West anymore, but it's a sort of a beautiful musicianish Wild West rather than a, you know, if we were cage fighters, it'd be a different kind of an industry. But
Oh wow.
musicians are like, first of all, the focus on spiritual music and the import of music and the inspiring things that like Taylor Swift is able to do in spite of the music industry and telling them what to go pound sand when she needs to. Uh, these are important things we could, probably spin a whole conversation around someday, which we won't do right now because y'all have been with us for whatever 40 minutes now, and we respect your time.
But it is a good point, because the industry and the world of music in general has changed so much, and as much as a lot of it you can look at it in a negative light, there's so much positive. Of course, just like with
Yeah,
anything, when there's a major change, there's new opportunities that come out of that, just as much as there's things kind of dying away as well. And I think any good entrepreneur, any good artist in general, but I really love the entrepreneurial attitude. I think it serves everyone in some
yes,
ways, even if
yes,
you're working for a company and have no need to create a income streams for yourself. It's still helpful to have that
it's still
mentality
helpful.
of how can I adapt instead of just only going, oh my God, this is wrong, that's wrong. It's like, okay. And a good entrepreneur just continues to adapt and evolve. That's it.
Our medium is in fact our message in that sense,
Yeah.
because musicians are about growing and evolving and adapting. Even the ones that sit in the studio and play anything site on site perfectly
Yeah.
still do all the creative stuff that musicians do. And that's a, hate to use the word, a mindset, but I'll use the mindset. That's a life skill
Yeah.
that the rest of the world is just hungry for right now.
Yeah.
When
Especially
it
with all
comes,
the,
oh yeah.
uncertainty.
Have you looked at the world recently?
Just a little
Right.
bit.
Just a little bit. So, yeah, it is the age of Aquarius in that sense, because musicians and poets and the creative people are offering the way forward that is not available to the production mindset, to the corporate mindset, to the industrial age way of thinking. I'm not even sure what to call what we're in right now, but it's definitely not meta. It's beyond that.
Well, the Aquarian Age is the best I've heard because, and then for those that don't know that, I mean, the Aquarian Age just is a cycle of time that the ancients measured the cycle of the zodiac. We
26,000 years, is that the one we're on, or is there a
well, yeah,
12,000?
the full zodiac cycle is 26,000 years, approximately, a little under that, and there's 12 sections within the full cycle, and the 12 symbols of the zodiac take up, I don't know, divide 26,000 by 12.
Yeah, I'll just do it in
I
my
guess.
head right now. Hang on.
Yeah. So that many, 2,500 years or so is each, cycle. So we got out of very recently, I believe it was 2012 when we switched it over, but
Yeah, there was the big
there's debate
change.
on that. And that's the end of the Mayan calendar. And so they're all kind of interestingly linked around the same times, recognizing the same cycles. And there's cycles of consciousness. There's cycles of human consciousness where
Right.
we go to our golden age high levels of awareness and then low levels of awareness. Interestingly enough, we just came out of our lowest, most disconnected level of awareness, which completely lines up with everything that we've been witnessing. And it also lines up perfectly with the transition happening right now because we're going out of it. We're moving. We're in this Aquarian age, and the Aquarian age is all about, and there's a lot more detail you can go into, but mostly what it's all about is it's reshaping all of these paradigms. These paradigms are all crumbling and they're being rewritten. And one of the new paradigms in business that's being rewritten is it's all heart-based now. It's not strategic or manipulative or competitive. It's collaborative. It's community-based.
Yep.
It's heart-based.
Reciprocal.
And you will do more success. You will be more successful, make more money the more you're doing things that you're truly passionate about, that you feel like you're truly here to serve.
Yeah.
And that energy is what will bring in your wealth, not how awesome is my marketing campaign,
Exactly. I've so turned away from marketing. People that hit me on LinkedIn, it's like, lead setting, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, fine. We'll pay you on closed business. We're not paying anything up front. Most of the time they go away.
And that's marketing for me is also like, I don't like the word anymore just because, again, it's part of the old paradigm.
Yeah.
But let's just take that word and it's like, there's a new way of informing people about what you do, because that's all marketing is, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, I'm also redefining that, and I'm really enjoying things like literal word of mouth, text messaging,
Absolutely, right?
networks.
It's about the relationship.
It's relationships, and it comes back to love. I'm connecting people who I love.
Yes.
I love everyone and all things in life. Of course, I recognize that general, unconditional love, but of course, there's people we truly gravitate towards more. And those people, I'll send messages out and get them to soundboard what I'm doing, or shout it out to the rest of the world.
That's how it works.
That's how it works.
That's how music has always worked.
Exactly.
Right? Well, actually, that's how the creative world has always worked. It wasn't until the industrial age that it got to sort of be productized, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And not to blame anybody for this, but Dickens figured out that if you could write a little bit of a story and publish it every week, you not only would build an audience for your eventual book, but you'd get paid while you were writing your book.
Every generation,
man, right?
You're smart. Like again, that's the entrepreneurial life, and that's
right.
The most successful artists are typically quite entrepreneurial. I mean, just looking at the Drakes or things like that. I use him because I don't really like his music, and I have to give him full respect on a business level because that guy just very smart man, really good business operator, and knew how to grow a brand really, really well.
Yeah.
So good for him, like well deserved.
And you know what? It's not about growing a worldwide following. and respect for Taylor Swift.
Have to be.
You don't have to have that to be quite happy doing what you do. And if you get
100
fame,
big
great, but
fans. That's all you need.
102 fans, that's the number,
Right?
right? Who do we
Yeah.
thank for that? Somebody.
Forget who.
Somebody, but somebody who matters.
Yeah.
102
Thank
fans,
you.
right? Seth Godin, I don't know, somebody like that. 102 fans. Maybe it was Derek Sivers.
But it's
I don't
true.
know.
It's totally true.
But it's basic,
Yeah.
right? You really don't need millions and millions of followers, in spite of
What they
how
tell
we're
you.
all tied into how many people are following us on Instagram.
Yeah.
Right.
Or,
how many
or you do.
friends we have.
Or I mean, I've just again like I'm off. Like I'm fully off of it. No judgment to anyone who's on it. It's just like for me, social media is part of the old world in a weird way for me, and other people are gonna have a completely different experience with that. And awesome, all the power to you.
Exactly.
For me, it has led to so much anxiety, and I actually have an app that I can put my posts on that will then post to my social, so I don't actually have to come to the platform. I just did that today for a couple of shows because I still don't have the cash right now to be paying someone to do that for me. That will be something I will absolutely invest in long term. But right now I'm still doing it myself, but I'm still not on the app, and that's enough just to keep my sanity. Like it helps.
I just
really
use it as a billboard.
Exactly. Right? So I mean, there's like I'm still again like it's a transition. So there's part of me in the old world still. Yeah. But we're moving into this Aquarian cool ass world.
Yeah. I should probably figure it out. If I were to subscribe to and attend even only the stuff that I've learned about in 2023, I would have no time for anything. And I'd be broke. Right?
Yeah.
Because even if any of those, let's say the ones that are business folk, like a networking group or something, if business came out of that, I wouldn't have time to do it because I'd be so busy in all the Facebook groups and networking events and, Zoom masterminds and everything else. It's like, I just don't want to add to any more of that noise. Right? It'd be great to hang out with people, but, charging them a monthly fee that takes their time and maybe gives them some kind of value. I mean, for heaven's sakes, all the value you need is out there. Just chat GPT for it if you want to learn something. Hanging out with people, like having coffee, doing what we do, just chat. This is way more valuable than any of that.
Yeah, we got to do another podcast on this, Bill, because like I could go on about this a lot. I've had recent revelations a lot right now about just that exact this whole topic of kind of evolving and growing your business in this new age and in ways that might feel contradictory or not a smart business move, but they feel really good. And for me, I'm really following more of that, feeling really good.
Let's talk about that next time we get together, because that is a really important topic, and it might spin out into 2 or 3 conversations.
Yeah.
Think about a structure for that.
Yeah.
Because what you're saying is really, really critical right now, and it's another word I don't like, disruptor. I want to be a ruptor.
Sounds like raptor.
Right?
I want to be a dinosaur.
I want to be it's not taking apart anything. It's sort of going to what matters. We're not tearing down social media. We're not taking away the internet. But what matters when you're in the creative world is not how many times you can post per day, right? It doesn't matter how good your posting is. What matters is this one-to-one, this face-to-face, this being in the room, like picking up instruments and jamming together. And if the internet isn't a place where we can do that online, hey, I'm all about that. But I don't care if anybody's listening, right? I don't want to promote it to 40 million people and charge people to be there and have somebody monitoring the comments so we can hear what all the yahoos in the world that are on board are telling us about our stuff right then. It's like, oh man, this is about the 1-to-1 or 1-to-5 or however many are in the band, at that moment or in the room.
It's connection. It's connection and it's quality over quantity. In my personal opinion, quality over quantity.
Yes.
And it's all about human connection. That's all business ever has been and ever will be.
Right.
And maybe once we come into more contact with our beautiful extraterrestrials, business will expand to other beings and species, but it's still business. It's still personable relations with beings. With
it's an exchange.
It's an exchange.
It's an exchange of something.
of something, of energy. At the end of the day, it all comes down to that. It's energy of some form that's being exchanged. And when you're doing it with love and excitement and passion, you're only going to attract more opportunities that bring in those feelings. And guess what? The people that interact with you then are going to feel those things too. And then you just start to leave like this. I'll share this in our next episode, but I've had so many stories recently where, there's so much fun being had, so much good feelings
Yes.
that are being had in the business situation where you literally forget it's a business interaction.
Yes.
And then the money comes in and you're like, that was the best feeling ever for that money coming in.
Right.
How about more of that,
Right.
like it's just wonderful.
Though
And that's
if
the
we
age we're moving into.
if we pursue those opportunities exclusively, we can change things.
Yes.
We got to talk about this because your
Yeah.
fellow Canadian Jeff Booth, who's the cryptocurrency guy,
Right.
is all over this, and his basic line is, eventually there'll be no more money, but we won't need it because everything will be done for us by all the bots that are currently just growing up, right? So when everything is done for us, we don't need money to exchange for that, and that'll take the whole conversation to a new level, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's a exciting future. I'm feeling positive about it. So
Oh, definitely, dude. Yeah,
yeah.
likewise.
Well, thanks
Hey,
everyone
I'm bummed we didn't record on Monday, but this is an equally amazing bump for the rest of my week.
Great. Me too. I always love these conversations, Bill, and all of you beautiful folks watching, listening. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening to our nice little ramble today on many subjects. But that's
Exactly.
a podcast, so hey,
That's the podcast.
get
And you know
what
what?
you
Here we go, because they tell us that this exact thing that you and me are doing, Chris, you and I are doing, that we are doing,
get.
this exact sort of rambling thing, quote, doesn't sell. And you know what? They're exactly right, because it isn't about selling anything. It's about offering a place where people can jump in and springboard off to something else. And if you get good ideas, send us a check. No, I'm kidding.
Send us a message. Send us a comment. I would love
Yeah.
to hear about anyone and what you're experiencing with these podcast episodes, with any of the suggestions that were thrown at you, beautiful people, and any thoughts or ideas that you want to share. Because ultimately, this is a safe space that we're trying to create here on the podcast for many things: contemplation, introspective thought, inspiration, ideas that you might get. I love listening
Feeling.
to podcasts because I just get so many ideas, and
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I just love listening to conversation. I think as humans, a lot of us, I mean, that's the beauty of the podcast generation, is just recognizing how much we enjoy listening to humans. We like conversation. We don't like the old world we're leaving behind is this heavily scripted, overproduced, nonsensical facade that's not even real.
How
And we want
to,
real.
raise a plant.
Yeah, exactly. We want real. We just want to be real. So I have to run being real right now to another podcast that
Awesome, dude.
I love it. I love this world of podcasting. So like I said to all of the beautiful people watching and listening, let us know. Send us a comment. We'd love to hear. Give us a like, thumbs up, or whatever, however you're listening and watching to us. And thanks again, Bill. This was great. I always love our conversations.
Oh, likewise. And hey, thank you, because to our sponsors, Ancient Mysteries Unearthed, right?
Yeah.
And Museumorphic, grateful to have the backing that allows us to be able to do what we do.
Yeah, absolutely. And how about a quick shout out for people that are interested in checking out any of my work? You can go to chrisnoblemusic.com, and you can also go to ancientmysteriesUnearthed.com to check out that. Of course, it'll be in the show notes. And Bill, where can people find you?
Right up there, museumorphic.com. Let's see if I can point to it. Yeah, there we go. Backwards in the mirror.
Museumorphic.com, great website. It's fun too. It's gamified.
Oh yeah, totally gamified. We're reinvigorating music with fun.
Great.
Yep. You and me both.
That's the way to go. No more Royal Conservatory. No.
Yeah. Off you go.
Fine.
Goodbye, Royals. Sorry, that's sacrilegious in some parts of the world.
I know, but
love you. God praise the king, or whatever. What is it? God, long live the king. There we go. That's what I'm trying to say. And off you go to your other podcast, man.
Thanks for everything, though, Bill. I appreciate you. We'll see you soon.
See you soon.
All right. Much love.
Aho.
Aho.